Okay, think about this for a second. Imagine a multi-billion-dollar industry, one that's just raking in cash, getting shut down, literally, overnight by the government. Now, this isn't some hypothetical scenario. This is exactly what just went down in the Philippines. And let me tell you, it's a wild story of high stakes, big crime, and one heck of a national gamble.
So, what actually happens when a government just pulls the plug on an entire industry like that? Well, the fallout it's huge. We're not just talking about lost money here. This story digs into organized crime, a ton of international pressure, and basically a complete rewrite of the country's economic rulebook. And yeah, that is the story of the Philippines' online gaming sector.
But to really get why they made such a drastic move, we gotta rewind a bit. We need to look at the history of gambling in the Philippines, which, believe me, is quite a journey, from, backroom cockfights all the way to global-scale casinos. For the longest time, betting in the Philippines was a really local, kind of informal thing. Think community card games, cockfighting rings, that sort of stuff. Then, in 1977, the government stepped in and created PEGCOR to try and get it all under one legal roof. But the real game changer, that came in the 2010s with the absolute explosion of POGOs. That's Philippine Offshore Gaming Operators. These companies were basically beaming online casinos to players all around the globe. It was a massive boom that, well, as you can see, came to a very, very sudden stop.
Yeah, that pogo era, you can really only describe it as a modern-day gold rush. It was messy, it was chaotic, super controversial, but man, for a little while there, the amount of money it was pulling in was just staggering. And just look at the sheer scale of this thing. At their absolute peak, pogos made up more than 11% of PAGCOR's entire revenue. I mean, that's not just a small piece of the pie. That's a massive economic engine. We're talking billions of dollars pouring into the economy, all from players who weren't even in the country.
But, and this is a big but, that gold rush was built on some really shaky ground. The whole industry became a magnet for serious problems. Crime rates started going up, you had these super murky corporate structures, and then came the really disturbing allegations of financial scams, money laundering, and even human trafficking. And this wasn't just a domestic issue either. Other countries started putting on some serious pressure because their own citizens were getting caught up in it all.
So with all these problems just spiraling out of control, the government basically realized that a few small fixes weren't going to cut it. It was time for something really drastic. It was time to hit the reset button on the whole thing. And this date right here, this was the moment everything changed. The absolute end of an era.
So the legal hammer that came down was something called Executive Order 74. And let's be clear, this wasn't a warning shot. This was the final verdict. It ordered a complete and total stop to all offshore gaming by the end of the year. That meant no new licenses, no renewals, nothing. The entire pogo industry was officially dismantled by law, just like that.
So you gotta be asking, why go so nuclear? Well, according to the head of PEGCOR, the goal was actually pretty simple. They wanted fairness and stability. It was all about cleaning house, tearing it all down to build a new, sustainable industry from scratch, one where every single company had to play by the exact same set of rules.
In this reset, it was bigger than just shutting down the pogos. It actually changed the regulator itself. See, for years, PAGCOR was in a weird spot. It was both the player, running its own casinos, and the referee, trying to police the industry. It was like a team owner also refereeing the game. So, by 2026, they're selling off their casinos to become just the referee, focused only on making sure everyone else follows the rules.
All right, so what comes next? What rises from the ashes of the pogo industry? Well, now that the offshore Wild West is gone, a brand new, very strictly regulated domestic market is taking its place.
And getting a license in this new era is a whole different ballgame. The rules are super strict, and there's no wiggle room. First, you have to be a legally registered company in the Philippines. Second, all your tech, your servers, your databases, everything has to physically be in the country. Third, you have to block anyone from outside the Philippines from playing. And finally, every single game you offer has to be tested and certified by an approved lab. No exceptions.
Now, these super strict rules weren't just about keeping things in order at home. This was a very deliberate move to repair the Philippines' reputation on the world stage. It was their way of sending a clear signal that they were getting serious, really serious, about fighting illegal financial activity.
And did it work? Well, here's the proof.
In early 2025, the Philippines was officially taken off the Financial Action Task Force's gray list. And you have to understand, this is a huge deal. Getting off that list is basically an international stamp of approval. It tells the world, hey, we've cleaned up our act. This makes it way easier to attract foreign investment, and it even lowers the cost of doing business internationally for the whole country.
Okay, so they've got a new rulebook, they've got their reputation back. What's next? What does the future of gaming in the Philippines actually look like now? And maybe more importantly, what do the local players actually want?
And this is what's so fascinating. The local market is really unique. Everywhere else in the world, slots are king. But in the Philippines, players prefer stuff that's more social, more community-focused, like e-bingo and games with live streamers. And when it comes to sports betting, forget about it. It is all about basketball. The NBA is basically a national obsession there.
So looking ahead, the path to success seems pretty clear. Forget the global market, focus on home. This means platforms designed for mobile phones first and foremost. It means more live casino games and a bigger push into esports. There's even talk of bringing back a regulated, legal version of e-sabang, or online cockfighting, which is a huge cultural thing there, even if it's controversial. The big takeaway here is that success isn't about appealing to everyone. It's about being authentically Filipino.
Which brings us right back to the central question, doesn't it? The Philippines took this massive gamble, right? They shut down a billion-dollar industry just to clean house. They've replaced the chaos with control, but the real test is just beginning. Can they build a new model that's both profitable and responsible? Honestly, whether this huge gamble actually pays off, well, only time is going to tell.